Hello everyone and welcome back to Ushanka Show. If you followed the war in Ukraine, you probably heard about Russian ship being attacked in the Black Sea by several Ukrainian drones. There is a real information war going on right now because Russians claim that every drone was sunk, while Ukrainians showing that at least one drone managed to approach the ship and explode right next to him. So we don't know what's going on, but I want to talk to you about something very different. Let's talk about Ivan Khurs, not the ship, but the person that this ship was named after, and his connection to the United States Navy. There is not much information on the internet about Ivan Khurs, although he was definitely a big deal. You don't name big ships after just random people. So Ivan Khurs was born in September of 1922 in Belarus, Minsk region, and actually Belarusian sources have way more information than Russian sources. Russian sources don't have much, and this guy never wrote any memoirs and books, so he never shared his amazing story. In 1939, he became a Navy cadet, and he finished that. It's called Высшее военно-морское училище имени Фрунзе. So that's the highest Navy college named after Frunze. He graduated from this college in 1942, so pretty much right in the middle of World War II. As I mentioned earlier, there's not much details about his career. He just said that he served in the Black Sea Fleet during the war. Then he participated in war with Japan, so he was moved from the Black Sea all the way to the Far East. In 1946, he became an officer. Then he became a commander of a group of minesweepers on the Pacific Fleet. So he was moving up and up. And actually, these minesweepers, that's what actually launched his career, and that's how he got his very first award. We'll talk about it in a second because this is actually the connection to the United States Navy, and it's only Belarusian sources mentioned that part. That kind of caught my attention, but let's talk about his career. In 1951, he finished some training in intelligence. Then he became pretty much officer of intelligence of Soviet Navy, and he was climbing up. And for a long time, I believe from 1979 till 1987, he was pretty much the main guy in the intelligence office of Soviet Navy. So he knew a lot of things. Some sources mention that he participated in smuggling nuclear weapons to Cuba, which created the Caribbean crisis during the Khrushchev time. Also, some sources claim that he was in charge of smuggling weapons to Africa during different national movements like a war in Angola and so on. So he was the guy who was helping to move weapons and ammunition during that time. So all in all, Ivan Khurs served the Soviet Navy for almost 50 years, 48 years, became Vice-admiral, and he retired in 1987. This is one of the last photos of Ivan Khurs during the victory parade on May 9, 2000. And I said I never knew about him. He never got the awards, like the highest award of the Soviet Union, the Hero of the Soviet Union, which Leonid Brezhnev had like 5 or 7 of those. But he got plenty of awards. Ivan Khurs passed away in Moscow in December of 2002. And he took a lot of secrets with him. As I mentioned, he never wrote a single book. And in November of 2013, the Russian SIGINT intelligence collection ship was laid down, and it was named Ivan Khurs. It was commissioned in 2018, and that's the ship that became famous in the Black Sea after going through the straits in Turkey. As I mentioned earlier, Ivan Khurs was born in Belarus, and that was Belarusian Soviet Socialist Republic. And apparently, they're extremely proud of the fact that a Belarusian national became such a big thing in the Soviet Union Navy. So the articles in Wikipedia exist for Ivan Khurs only in Russian and Belarusian. And Belarusian actually contains more information than the Russian source. And Belarusian source, they provided information about awarding Lieutenant Khurs with Order of Patriotic War First Degree. And this is when I kind of like, what? And so it says, thanks to the skillful management and organization of the service on the ship, Khurs managed to accept minesweeper number 100 from the U.S. Navy in a short period of time, 8 days, and now that ship is not called number 602 in the composition of the USSR Navy. In extremely difficult meteorological conditions, thanks to his skillful leadership and skillful work of the personnel, the ship was brought to a separate naval base without accidents or breakdowns. Upon arrival at the base, the ship was directed to combat trawling of the Lapérouse Straits from enemy mines, and here, thanks to skillful leadership of the ship's commander, the minesweeper's crew until November 15, 1945, tracked and shot 43 enemy mines and guided 32 ships with the most valuable cargo. So it took me a little bit of Googling around. I was jumping between searching for the Soviet minesweeper number 602 to US Navy minesweeper number 100, and thanks to Google, my goodness, there's a lot of interesting information about transferring ships from US Navy to the Soviet Navy in the end of World War II, and it was done apparently in secret. So here's, my friends, you're looking at YMS-1 class auxiliary motor sweeper laid down on July 15, 1941. So that's exactly almost 30 years before I was born, by the Astoria Marine Construction Company in Astoria, Oregon. It was launched in April of 1942, transferred in August 17, 1945 to the Soviet Union and reclassified as T-602. He was assigned to Pacific Fleet under careful management of our friend Ivan Khurs, and he was removed from service in October 1955 and laid up. I'm not sure what means laid up. And he was sunk in 1956 in the Sea of Japan in agreement with the United States. So this is the interesting story of the American minesweeper that ended up being a Soviet minesweeper and secretly transferred back in 1945. And I also stumbled on an interesting article on nationalinterest.org that called "Your History Book Missed This." In 1945, the US Navy gave Russia, well, not Russia, Soviet Union, a fleet of ships. The reason? To invade Japan. And I'll post the link below in the comment section to this article, but shortly. In February 1945, Washington and Moscow agreed to arrange a transfer of vessels in Cold Bay, Alaska, because the site harbored the abandoned army base of Fort Randall and had no civilian population. Because the Soviets remained officially neutral, it was essential that the naval buildup, codenamed Project Hula, remain secret. Just a reminder, Soviet Union and Japan signed a non-aggression pact back in 1941, similarly like Soviets signed a similar non-aggression pact with Germany. So in this case, the Soviets were planning to break the pact, but they wanted to do it in secret, and that's what that Project Hula. In the end, a transfer of 180 ships was approved. That's a lot of ships. The most capable were 30 Tacoma-class patrol frigates, optimized for the anti-submarine operations, with the 3-inch guns and multiple flag cannons. They were supplemented by 34 similarly armed Admiral-class minesweepers, so that's the ones that were under half of displacement. And then it goes submarine chasers and so on and so on. So total of 180 ships, that's what the Soviets got from the United States. And this is how Ivan Khurs, at that time senior lieutenant, impressed his superiors with his skillful management and organization of the service of the ship, accepting American minesweeper number 100 and transferring it to the Soviet Navy. And this is how the American minesweeper YMS-100, which was built in Oregon, helped to launch his career to become a Vice-admiral of the Soviet Navy and being a leader of the Navy intelligence for so many years. And only now we could learn something more after a ship named after him became famous in that Ukrainian drone attack. Well, my friends, I hope you enjoyed this video, maybe learned something new. As always, don't forget to like it, share with your friends, and we'll talk to you soon. До свидания, goodbye.